3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Passport Legacy. I'm Manuela from Optylon Krea. We will give 3 to 5 minutes for our attendees to join the webinar, and then we will start speaking about today's topic, that is about golden visa and eligible investment options for Portugal. But while we are waiting for people to join, you will tell them where we are. So where are we?
Hello there. My name is Andre. I'm with Passport Legacy, and we are here today in Dubai in our head office with the company of Manuela and Optylon to discuss Portugal, golden visa options, and in general what investments qualify, and how does this play in the bigger picture of things with the other Caribbean programs. As Manuela said, we will give 3 to 5 minutes to give everyone time to join and make sure that no one misses out.
Yes. As I said, we are in Dubai, but we are both Portuguese actually.
Exactly.
We will not be speaking Portuguese, but it could be an option.
Fortunately for you, we won't.
Yes. So I will check how many attendees we have, and we can start very soon, I think, because it will be very interesting today to be speaking about Portuguese golden visa. What are your options? What are the requirements? What are the investment opportunities? And to make a presentation about both companies, Optylon Krea and Passport Legacy as well, of course. So we still need to give more time because 1 minute less, but we spoke too fast.
I would say so. We try to keep it slower and much.
Yes, true. But we can speak about the weather because it's too hot,
Exactly.
as usual.
As usual.
In Dubai. As I'm coming from Portugal, I say it's 50 degrees, but then I can say.
For us, this is very normal this time of the year, and we can live perfectly fine with it, especially with the help of our good friend AC.
Yeah, understand. For the attendees already in, it will be a short webinar. We will cover a lot of questions. However, any doubts or anything you need, you can pop up in our chat, and we will also be sharing our contacts so you can contact both of us directly as well. And we still need to wait a bit more because 2 minutes passed. In Portugal, we are very punctual. So.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we try, but at least we started at a good time. So we wait a bit more for the ones that are already here. Thank you, and just be a bit patient because we will start very soon. But we can also start from having a small conversation, and then it will be recorded. So who is not here for now, it will be later. I will just start with the table of contents that we are speaking today, because the important part is coming later, but just for our attendees to know, and also for the people who see on the report. As I said previously, we will be speaking today about investment migration program for Portugal that is called Golden Visa. We will speak about what are the requirements, the family application and reunification, what and how you can do it, the timeline for this application, what are the possible investments for the Golden Visa investment, because Golden Visa is eligible through an investment. I will be doing an introduction about Optylon Krea. I will ask you as well to make an introduction about Passport Legacy for kick off our table of contents. And I will give a teaser about Optylon Krea investments options for the Golden Visa application. Then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session that we would love to have your questions for be more dynamic and to cover everything that for any reason we didn't cover in the meeting. So I think we can start because it's already 5 minutes passing, and starting with Passport Legacy presentation, please.
Okay, so Passport Legacy, we are a Swiss company headquartered in Dubai. We are fairly young. We founded in 3 years ago. But between myself and my colleagues, we are more than 20 years combined experience in the industry. What do? We do all the citizenship by investment programs and residency by investment programs. programs. We do the usual suspects, meaning the Caribbean programs, to which we are a government authorized agent to promote. And besides that, we also promote the programs of Turkey, Portugal, and Greece. We assist our clients from A to Z, meaning from the first meeting all the way until handover of passports, and in the case of Portugal and Greece, handover of residency as well.
Okay, great. I think there's a curiosity about you that everyone should know that you are a Portuguese lawyer as well.
Exactly.
So today, while speaking about golden visa, he has all the expertise to give the best advice.
Yes, I was a lawyer in Portugal for almost 7 years, and my specialty was the golden visa program itself. And having done that for almost 7 years, I'm in a good position to say that I've been through all sorts of situations, and I've specialized in real estate investments as well, and private equity funds investment as well.
Great. So you have the expertise, and that's why I'll be interviewing you today, asking a lot about golden visa because it's what everyone wants to know. And I will start asking you, what is the golden visa?
Well, the golden visa is a residency program, first of all, and there's a residency program based on one simple fact. In fact, residency attributed to those who make a qualifying investment into Portugal. It started in 2012 as a way to bring in foreign investment into Portugal, and basically the investment routes that are possible for you to obtain this residency can be divided into 3 major ways: real estate investments, capital investments, and job creation.
Okay. Basically, what are the requirements for the golden visa application for the investment of the golden visa?
The requirements, it changes with the type of investment that you select. If you go for the property investments, you have 2 ways of getting it: 350,000 and 500,000 euro routes. They have small differences. In capital investments is a big umbrella that covers a lot of investment types. I would say that the most relevant for us today would be the private equity funds investment route that starts at 500,000 euro. Okay, and the job creation itself, this is historically and in statistic terms the least relevant. It starts with the creation of 10 job posts in Portugal. This is usually the more, let's say, the less passive investment form and the more hands-on way of getting the golden visa, and it explains why it is by far the least relevant.
Exactly. Can you just give also an idea what are the entitlements for golden visa? Because when investing in golden visa, you can also reunify your family, your children, your parents, dependents. So what are the entitlements regarding living, working, citizenship, family, and visa free?
Well, unlike some other programs, and comparing to the Caribbean programs, one has a lot of flexibility when it comes to choose the investment, because there is a lot of qualifying routes. So the freedom of the investor is very important before we even get into the perks of having the residency. Perks of having the residency: you are entitled to live in Portugal as long as you want, and you are entitled to work there as well, to set up a business, to live there full time, to enroll your children to school, and to have access to the public healthcare in Portugal. Okay, so these are the big two. You can vote in local elections, in municipal elections, but not for the parliament and for the executive government elections. More than that, the speciality of the golden visa compared to other types of residency is that you are entitled to keep it by spending only 7 days per year into Portugal. And this is what puts the golden visa as a perfect plan B for people who are willing to work in having a foothold in Europe, but are not willing to relocate straight away. Meaning that you need to keep your residency by doing an average of 7 days per year in Portugal, which is equivalent to a small vacation for you and for your family.
At the end, the investors are buying time with this golden visa because you are applying for the citizenship, and you start with a shortcut of time, as you don't need to relocate, as Andrea was saying. And this is what's very attractive about this program, besides the fact that Portuguese passport is a very strong one as well. So thank you for that explanation. Going for the time of application and usually how it process. I mean, like starting from you decide an investment, you start preparing yourself for the investment, because for golden visa investment, for instance, the investment has to be made upfront. This is one of the requirements. When you invest in a country, you need to put the investment upfront, and then you will be able to do the investment, the application in the golden visa program. So just a small summarize about the timeline.
Okay, so the golden visa, as you know, Manuel, there are a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
Meaning that the step zero before we even get into applications is getting you a bank account in Portugal and getting you a taxpayer number as well. This is something that can take between 2 to 4 weeks. It depends, and it's a big part of the process is that we are contingent on third parties to perform the best that they can, so that we have the best timeline possible, regardless of our best efforts to make everything take as little as it can. After this, you can do the investment, because doing the investment, as again, due to the several different ways of you having to get it, the time that you need to get it varies as well. After the investment is done, you proceed with online submission of your documents on the relevant online platform of the immigration office. In normal conditions, processing of the online application can take between 1 to 3 months. This depends, again, we are contingent on the activity of the immigration office and how they process the applications. After this online application is validated, meaning you have a pre-approval, you will get an appointment for you and for your family to come to Portugal and do your biometric data. Okay, so this, depending a bit in Portugal, you can choose where you do the biometrics, meaning the regional office where you choose, and depending on where you choose to do the biometrics, you can take as little as, and in normal conditions, as 3 to 4 months processing time. The less busy the regional office that is chosen, the more likely it is for you to have a speedy process of your application. After the approval by the immigration office, the residency cards can take 4 to 6 weeks to be issued and delivered to you. So in total, we are looking at a timeline for between 8 to 10 months, I would say, everything going for the best. As I was saying, there's a lot of moving parts involved. Everyone needs to travel at some point. So even from the investor side, there can be contingencies that put more time in the process.
Yeah, this is something I would like to point out as well, because as Manuela was explaining, you can do the investors can do all this investment part from abroad, meaning they don't have to go to Portugal. And speaking about the bank account opening and the legal part, you also take care of this as passport legacy. So it's also
this is something that we assist.
A great assistance. So the investor only needs to come to Portugal when it's the time when the investment is made, the golden visa application is submitted, and the investor just needs to go to Portugal, because this cannot be done through the consulate or everything. This is the question we have a lot. So investor will need to come to Portugal. When is the time for making the biometrics, for having the golden visa card? And it will be the time 8 to 10 months that we were speaking.
Within this 8 to 10 months, which would be after the process is started, I would say between and everything going normal, between 3 to 5 months after the process is initiated. And before this, and this is easier if you're investing in a fund, for instance, that you don't need to come to Portugal before this.
Exactly. For property, sometimes there is the tangible and the location that you should always.
You need to get the feel of.
Even having the advising, it's normal that people like to travel and to go and to see. Okay, so we covered the main points, I would say. Golden visa, it's a big problem that it's a big program. There is a lot of details. So of course, a legal perspective and
Yes.
view will always be much deeper on that. So please leave your questions or send an email, because we will leave Andrea's email and my email as well. I think I just want to go for, because we already spoke about it, but just to make it clear, the Golden Visa program started in 2012, and actually it started with different routes for investment since 2012. The most popular one was property, direct property acquisition. At that time was already the company job creation. That is the most hands-on kind of, they will say, so it's the less chosen one. And starting from 2017, the government also made the venture capitalist funds eligible for the Golden Visa. So basically, just you can confirm as a legal perspective. What are the options for investing now? Are the property?
There was some big changes, and there is still some bigger confusion for the, I would say, for the general public in what can and what you cannot do in Portugal in terms of Golden Visa.
Exactly.
First and foremost, yes, the Golden Visa is still a thing, still exists, you can still apply. The major changes in terms of venture capital funds was an increase on the investment threshold from 350,000 to 500,000. And on the property side, this was the biggest shaker, let's say, where you cannot, to put it in very simple terms so that everyone can understand, you cannot invest in residential property in Lisbon, Porto, or in general the coastal areas of Portugal anymore. You can only invest in residential properties in what is the government designated low population or low economic development areas. This robbed the investors of a lot of flexibility when it comes to property. It's a big shake-up on the market, because I would say that 80 or 90% of the investments that I dealt with were made in Lisbon and Porto, precisely, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And it restricts the ability of investors to go to the most attractive areas in terms of property investment. Demands a bit of, if you allow me, a bit of left field thinking on when it comes to the property investment, making it, in my opinion, a less attractive proposition these days than it was before.
Exactly, because before there was more freedom for the choice, and now you can choose with the different requirements, and that's why the fund route has become so popular. And even we have comments and people making this route. I would say, and picking up what you were saying about the investment in property and the big changes there was, why is this fund route so popular? Because of you can say.
I would say that especially with the Optylon's fund, it still allows the investor to invest in property and to participate in a very active real estate market, which is the Portuguese real estate market in Lisbon and Porto. Not directly this time, but through the fund option, and but this also enables an investor to access opportunities that, in terms of pricing, would not be accessible to one investing by himself.
Yes.
In addition to that, when you compare straight on entrance costs in property and in funds, the funds are significantly lower when it comes to that, because on properties you have IMT, which is a transfer tax, stamp duty, notary costs, and so on and so forth. Whereas in the funds, you need to consider mostly these what is called the subscription cost or the subscription fee. This is usually, and don't quote me on that, I'm just giving you a reference, it's usually on the ballpark of 1.5%. Okay, whereas in the total acquisition cost is usually around 8% of the acquisition value. Taxation is much more friendly to you if you own your participation unit in a fund, because at most you'll be taxed at 10% on the dividends, and there's a possibility that you're not taxed at all.
Yes.
Whereas in property, it depends a bit on how you manage your property, how do you get income out of it. You can be taxed as high as 28% there, and this is as I'm sure you can appreciate, it's a big difference. Besides the expenses with the investment itself are lower, because these you still pay for them, but they are taken care of at fund level. When it comes to you, you don't need to pay the third parties that you need to pay when you have a property, like a property manager and so on.
Yeah, exactly. Every hustle you have basically.
Exactly.
So it's a much more straightforward investment through the fund groups. It's hustle free, it's a diversified investment, easy to handle because you really don't need to have this work that we were speaking of property as well, and it's tax efficient because, as Andres said, compared with the property direct property acquisition, there is no tax on the fund group. So, there anything else you'd like to add to this?
There's an expression that I like to use, is that basically you hand them over the keys and they drive the car, and you just sit on the back seat, and there's not much that you need to worry about.
Exactly, that is true, because it's a much more straightforward. That's why it became so trendy since, especially it was, as I said, created back in 2017. It started to be developed 2018. I can tell that because we were the first ones doing it, but I'll go there later. Sorry, and during COVID times, the world changed, as we all know, and people couldn't travel at that time, so the fund groups made them still have an option for doing the Portuguese Golden Visa, because there was no possibility of traveling or anything, and this allowed and changed a lot of the market. So that's why this is the trendiest route at the moment in Portugal. We know.
One with the biggest growth.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll take now the lead and I'll speak a bit.
Now you drive the car.
Yes, we spoke about the passport legacy, and Andrea is here with me. I'm Manuela, I'm sales associate for Optylon Krea. We are an European group. It's a merged venture between French and Turkish partners, and we manage over 1.7 billion investment in this pan-European area. So we are a Portuguese company based in Portugal. We are real estate developers, investment manager, and we were, that's why we are speaking here today, we were the pioneers back in 2017 in developing the fund route for Golden Visa, because the program, as I said, was created in 2012, and there was, the program had suffered a few changes. It never stopped to exist or anything. It's still existing, and it's still open for applications. But back in 2017, we were the first ones developing a fund route for Golden Visa. And since ever, we became not only the pioneers, but also the market leaders. Just to give a brief information, in 2020, we fundraised the biggest fund in the market. It was called Nest. We fundraised around 52 million euro. Last year, we only in the fund group, we fundraised more than 76 million euros. So it was, again, the biggest funds in the markets are with us. We have more than 450 investors from more than 33 countries. And this gives us more than 50% of the market share in the funds, venture capital funds group for the Golden Visa, for instance. So more or less, this is a summary about Optylon Krea. As I said, we are investment managed real estate developers. We are based in Portugal, so we are a Portuguese company, and we have eligible investment options, of course, for Golden Visa. I'll just give a brief introduction about our products, what we have. We have real estate projects for direct investment as well in main cities, actually in Lisbon, because we didn't mention, but to be eligible for Golden Visa, they can also be licensed as touristic apartments. Exactly. So meaning it's more for a rentability income than for living purpose. However, with us this year will still be possible because we have these investments, and we have 2 different funds open in portfolio for Golden Visa purpose. So basically, we have one commercial portfolio that is investing in commercial assets, prime retail assets, logistics, specialized office, like co-working type of office. Why we invest in this kind of office? It's pretty straightforward. Comparing the prices per square meter on the commercial assets compared with the benchmark average prices of Europe, secondary cities in Europe, I would say Portugal is still 3 times less expensive. So of course, these funds have to have a timeline to be eligible for golden visa. So both funds have 8 years duration, and the strategy next is to invest in these assets and to maturate them. So at the end of the 8 years, there is this exit and sort of a unique portfolio that will, of course, the capital appreciation will be higher, and there will be a capital appreciation, a natural even capital appreciation on that. So this is our most straightforward portfolio, and the minimum investment is as well 500K for both funds it is. Then last year, because we cannot be quiet, we had to develop another fund group that came a bit to change the market. I think it's important to give the figures for next, because I said it's the biggest fund in the market, and it is. We have more than 56 million raised only in next fund. We have more than 170 investors and from more than 30 countries. So it's going very well. It's still open for subscription and it's available for golden visa. So until the end of the year, the investors still can go for next. It will be a very diversified portfolio, and this is also a very good thing about the fund, because at the end they are always diversified, so give the investors a bigger range for their portfolio, I would say. Going to Prima that I was speaking, it's called Prima Europe Fund. It was fundraised, it was launched actually in September last year, so it was a really new fund and a game changer in the market. Why? Because it's a fund where the investor can do his investment tailor-made, meaning we have at the moment 450 investors, and speaking with all these investors, to have all these investors, maybe we spoke with more than 3 times this number of people, and we understand what golden visa people are looking for. And it's not only to have the golden visa. They are looking for deploy their savings, to make the investment for their families. So it's very important to have products that match the expectations of the investors. Prima is a very interesting fund because you can choose your position in the fund. You can choose if you are a more risk taker and with high returns taker profile, or if you are more conservative, that you will be investing in the fund as a senior profile. And in the senior profile, that is the more conservative approach for golden visa investors, you can choose either if you enter through the fund and you convert your participation units in a branded residence, meaning in a unit, in a property, or if you want to continue in the fund by just being a fund investor, and at the end you cash out, you exit with no property. So this is a fund with a downside protection for the senior investors, meaning they have a cap minus 10%, plus 10% cap during the fund term of the 8 years, and there is a yield distribution of around 2.5%. Prima is really it's going very well because it was the last year revolution market thing, I would say, and I also think it's important to give the figures. We have more than 32 million fundraised. Like we have less time than the next, so the number of course are different. Next, we started beginning of last year, 2021, but Prima we only started fundraising starting from September 2021. So we already have a good amount raised. We are launching the first projects within the fund, meaning that the investors that are already in the Prima fund can already choose if they want to convert their participation units in a unit or not. But however, we will be giving, I can be giving the details of this attractive fund later on, because it's really very informative and it's very good if people are interested in this kind of investments to know more about it.
Yes.
And
more detailed information.
exactly, and you know as well as we do.
Not as good as you, of course.
So basically, I think for Optylon Krea, it's important to understand that we have a portfolio of investments for investors that are looking for golden visa or not. Of course, majority of our investors are for golden visa, but we position ourselves in the market as the investment manager. So really, the investment part is very important for us to make the clients happy, not only to have the golden visa, because as you know, golden visa you can have doing a lot of things. It's important to reach investor expectations.
Exactly. And manage the trust over the 5 years that the program takes.
Okay. So I think I'm just checking for the Q&A because we will have questions, and I think it will be important. This question I wanted to pop up since the beginning because we spoke about the Caribbean passport that are often the majority of investments you have, and I want to ask you if it will be possible for the Caribbean passport holders to get the golden visa.
Absolutely, yes. The Portuguese golden visa does not discriminate on account of nationality of the applicant. So it's absolutely possible for one who holds a Caribbean passport to apply for the Portuguese golden visa. So there's nothing in the law against that, not from the Portuguese side, not from the Caribbean side.
Okay. We have an important question that I want to answer as well. What is the minimum investment for the fund route? Is 500,000.
500,000.
And for the touristic apartments in Lisbon as well, it will be the same amount. I wanted to continue with the part of Caribbean passport holders can invest in golden visa. And what are the
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
So basically, these are two-tiered solutions. There's a lot of competition in this industry, as I'm sure you know, and competition between programs, but they serve very different purposes.
Okay.
So the Caribbean passports, such as Saint Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Grenada, they serve a very major purpose. Their main purpose is to enable one to travel visa-free. We don't have this issue, as we are all Portuguese citizens, but people from certain geographies, such as West Africa and Far East Asia, they need to apply for visas to go anywhere that you can imagine. And this sometimes it's an hassle because you dealt with public officers, so sometimes you know that you are rejected the request and you're not sure on which grounds, and sometimes you need to wait 6 months for you to apply for a visa again after you're rejected, and this is very time consuming both for families, for business people when they need to travel abroad like you and me to attend to business opportunities. So the Caribbean passports are a very effective solution when it comes to that.
Freedom of travel.
Freedom of travel first. Of course, there are associated benefits. You have access to the CARICOM, which is composed by 7 countries in the Caribbean, such as Bahamas, Barbados, etc. You can set up companies there very easily. So it's attractive from wealth structuring and tax structuring perspective as well. Besides this, I'm part of the Commonwealth of the UK as well, so they have close ties to the UK and enable you to travel to the UK as well and stay there for up to 6 months, not only European. So these bases are covered. But some people need and would want to have a stronger foothold in Europe.
Okay.
And this is where a combination of the two, for me, makes sense because it covers most places. Life is not only visa-free travel, as we very well know. We spent the last 2 years and a half stuck in a pandemic cycle, where just by the fact that you could, in normal conditions, go somewhere, didn't mean that you could during the pandemic. You need a stronger tie to some countries. With a residency in Portugal, for instance, you could travel to Portugal, even if it was not what is called non-essential travel.
Exactly.
Okay, so this gives you a stronger tie to European country, and working on a plan B that is not only based on the easiness to travel around, but setting your, let's say, your basis of operation elsewhere, with the benefits that we spoke about.
Yeah.
Access to, can live there for full time, access to education, healthcare, etc., easiness to set up a business in Portugal and therefore in Europe. More than that, the residency can lead itself to citizenship after 5 years, and the rights of the European passport. The strongest aspect of it is not the easiness of traveling, because you can travel very easily. You can go to US, Canada, Australia, etc., without needing a visa. But the strongest aspect is that you can relocate anywhere within the European Union. We as Portuguese citizens, we can, if I decide to go to live in Italy tomorrow, we can. The sole immigration procedure is going to the municipality, register yourself, find a place to live, and you're done. You don't need to go to anything. So this, I would say that this is a very strong aspect. Combined with your future generation, this is for your future generations as well. not only for yourself, you will pass it down the line, are determined, and easiness of studying anywhere in Europe. This is very important for some families.
Yes. It's the legacy.
Exactly.
The citizenship will be legacy for parents that want their children to study in Europe. Once they become Portuguese, they can go wherever they want. As
Exactly.
we just go to the municipality, we say, I want to live here without work.
Not only that, you always have a place to go back.
Exactly. So this is the strength of combination of both passports. I have a question that is asking before investing, do we need to travel to Portugal? The answer is no, as we said before. You don't need to go to Portugal to make your investment.
Exactly.
And you will just need to come to Portugal for doing the biometrics. So answering the question, how long does this process takes before your investment? Well, when you do your golden visa application, it will take 4 to 5 months to come for the biometrics, and then more 4 to 5 months to
Exactly.
have the cards and the golden visa timeline, the 5 years that are required for you to keep your card start counting from the moment you have your first card issued, actually. So, anything to add? Because I'd like to do another question.
No, I'm sure there will be more things coming.
Okay, there is an interesting question saying that if we can invest in 2 different funds, for instance.
Yes, you can, and this is what I would, if I was an investor myself, if I was in the market, that's what I would do. Combination of investment opportunities so that you diversify.
Exactly, and with a bigger ticket now, because last year the minimum threshold was 350, there was not that much need. Although the funds are diversified within themselves, and this is one of the very good things of investing in a fund, because you diversify your portfolio, even investing in one single fund. With the ticket bigger, you can definitely split your investment amounts and diversify your portfolio, which we know it's less risky anyhow.
Exactly.
Basically, I wanted to say that our funds are linked to the real estate projects at the end. So the risk of these funds is to the real estate market as well as the direct property acquisition as well. So I just want to make a last question, and it is, since the law changed, and this is interesting, where are your clients investing?
So since the law changed, this is an interesting one. Before the law changed, we had the overflow of prospects and people wanting to start, mostly looking into properties, because for a lot of people, and it depends a lot for where the clients are based and what is their experience. For a lot of people, they believe in things that they can see.
Of course.
So bricks and mortar.
Of course.
But ever since the law changed, inquiries about real estate, not real estate funds, private equity funds have been piling up because, as I explained before, one is looking to invest into property and is severely limited in terms of location and scope of the property. Sure, you can still buy commercial property in Lisbon and Porto. Sure, you can still buy residential property, but it needs to be literally anywhere else.
Yes.
And this is not in the interest of the clients. So we have noted more and more interested in private equity funds, and I think this is this for the real investor, let's say, for someone who wants to do a best possible investment from an economic perspective. I would say that the funds are
also in euro based, which is always very strong.
Exactly.
So it's an investment in euro.
Yes, from a compliance standpoint, it's safer for the investor to assess whether these will qualify or not. On a property, you work on your case-to-case basis in terms of due diligence and finding out what qualifies and what does not. Whereas in funds, it's less opaque, let's say, because you just need to go into the Portuguese equivalent of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We'll check if the fund is registered, if it qualifies for golden visa, and you basically pick and choose.
Yes, and basically on the legal perspective as well, to know if the funds are eligible. Our funds that we advise as advisors of the next fund and Prima Europe funds, they are eligible for golden visa, and we have a lot of investors already. However, you can always go to your lawyer and ask for a legal perspective because when you buy a property, you have a deed. When you invest in a fund, you have management regulations. So
We always advise that this is looked at
Of
carefully and that the client knows exactly what he's getting into.
this will be for all of these eligibility products anyhow, because
Exactly.
you should have someone checking the eligibility part.
At the end of the day, I would do the same thing if I was buying something in another country.
Of course, because the main purpose will be your holding business, that has to be very well secured. We have a very good question. Is there any age restriction on who can apply?
Applicants have to be legally capable, so that means the main applicant has to be over 18.
Yeah.
So this is the first one. Who can join it? Spouse, no age limit on that. Children, there are no age limits for children, although children above 18 years old have to prove 3 sets of requirements. They need to prove that they are studying, they are financially dependent from the main applicant or the spouse, and that they are not married. Okay, if they fulfill these 3 requirements, they can be added to the application. Parents and parents-in-law, when they are dependent from the investor, they can be added as well.
Okay, no restrictions more or less for it. Of course, the main
Yes.
applicant should be adult, but for any nationalities or anything.
Currently, and due to the current situation in Ukraine, there is a restriction on Russian applicants, but other than that, there are no restrictions on nationalities.
Okay, so I think we covered a lot of questions. I will not ask more because I believe we are sharing our emails and we would like people to come back to us so we can speak a bit more. We spoke a lot, but the time is still good. So anything you might want to ask, you can use the emails that are on chat. You can go to Andrea Sport Legacy. He will help anything needed. And on our side, as an investment advisory part, we will be very happy to speak with you about the investment opportunities. And yes, we are in Dubai, so everyone that wants to meet, we can still do it for this week. If not, you will be here.
I'll be here, exactly.
Because I'll be going back to Lisbon at the end of the week.
You are the lucky one.
Yes, and the weather will be good as well. Exactly. Not 50 degrees, but good enough. And thank you all that are attending our webinar, and we speak.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.